abundance and relationships. Now, why did I choose to think of abundance when it comes to the aspect of relationships and how it ties in? That is something that we don't normally tune into, but it is something that we unconsciously attract and bring into our lives. For example, how many times have you been in a situation when you're possibly dating and when you get into the dating world or you get into a relationship in general and you're telling yourself, like, he's probably going to leave me or she probably doesn't really like me enough or any of those things? How often do you prove those things to be true before you even think about it? You're now looking for signs where, like, oh shit, it's happening, I told you it was going to happen, this is going to happen, and ultimately the self-fulfilling prophecy tends to take place. Now, the mind is so important. The mind and the brain are so phenomenally, not important, powerful, because the energy, like I said, that we give out is the energy we draw in, right? Now, one of the strongest attributes of the brain is the desire to want to prove itself right. So whether you think there's this famous quote of, like, whether you think you're wrong or whether you think you're right, you're right. Whatever you're thinking about yourself is probably true. So what it does is it wants to live with this principle called a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is also called confirmation bias, where it looks for a lot of things around where it's trying to say, yes, I knew this was going to happen, I knew this was going to happen. So now if I'm telling you that you have the power to be able to make things happen that you believe in, your next question should be, well, then how do I change what I believe in? How do I believe in the stuff that I want and not the stuff that I don't want? Nobody wants to be in a relationship where you're thinking to yourself, yes, I want to be in a dysfunctional relationship. I want to be in a relationship where I don't end up happy. I want to be left, wherever. I want someone to break up with me. I want to have, like, pain, heartbreak, or abandonment. We don't want those things. But the ego makes us feel, because of our conditioning. So now we talked about the surface layer of, like, abandonment. We talked about abundance. Now we're going deeper into why scarcity reduces our abundance. So now let's go a step deeper. So you're like, where does this come from? Where is this actually coming from? It comes from the ego's desire to be able to protect the self, which happened when we were really young, right? Because when you were a baby, you really needed that level of protection to be able to not fully feel the intensity of abandonment when you're a child. But now what happens is the abandonment still latches onto you. You just find different coping mechanisms to be able to, like, to work with it. So the first thing that you start to do is learn how to attach to people. That's what we call an attachment style. But an attachment style, unless it's one of security, is already based on scarcity. It's already based on the concept that I either don't deserve relationships, I'm not going to have the love I want, people are not going to see me, hear me, feel me, or validate me, no one's really going to get who I am and where I come from. So unconsciously, without realizing it, our attachments are directly associated with scarcity. So the attachment wound now becomes the source of scarcity, which is the attachment wound is taking away our abundance. So this is what I wanted to teach you and tell you guys about, because I specialize in attachments, and I'm teaching about attachment theory. But I also believe for myself so much in the concept of abundance and scarcity, and where I'm standing today, what I'm feeling today is what I will bring in. There are moments in my own relationships where on the way home I've been like, oh fuck, I don't want to, like, get back because we're going to have this kind of discussion, we're going to have this kind of thing, and then inevitably that's actually what happens. Because again, remember what I told you, my brain wants to show me that I'm going to be right. Now, if I'm going to be right about, or if my brain wants to see that I'm going to be right about being unhappy, about not having enough, about having a traumatic relationship, most importantly, about not believing I can get anything better, it will fucking prove it to me. I will give up opportunities where someone is willing to love me, where someone is willing to take care of me, where someone is willing to give me all those beautiful things, because I want to be able to tell myself and prove to myself, see, you think you didn't deserve it, you believed you didn't deserve it, so you're not going to get it. So now we go one step lower. Remember, now we're going layer by layer by layer. This is my favorite part of what I do. It's psychoanalysis. It's breaking down a story from the top right to the root. So on the top, we're like, okay, you know what? I want to attract abundance, but I'm attracting this kind of relationship. Okay, next, where does this come from? This really comes from a lot of, like, my attachment stories and all of that stuff. Okay, next, what the fuck even makes the attachment story, right? What the hell even makes this attachment wound that's creating scarcity? Now remember, today I'm just talking about scarcity and abundance in relationships. So I'm talking about abundance in relationships really as a topic, but abundance exists everywhere. And if you want to be a bigger part of that discussion, I'm actually giving you a call the following Tuesday only in my group, the EFC, which is the Emotional Freedom Collective. It's my membership who I nurture every day with like little emails and little like Facebook quotes and whatever else that I keep throwing on. If you want to be a part of that group, excuse me, just had some delicious Thai food. Make sure you check out the website, efccommunity.com, and you can join the membership for like $1 to try for 2 weeks and then $33 a month. But I'm not here for that. I'm here to tell you about the abundance. So now we go one step lower, right? And you're telling me now, okay, Yats, so what is it that creates these attachment wounds? Where is it coming from? What is it that makes me carry this attachment with me? And that is your belief. So the way the human neural network, so your brain, your central nervous system, the other parts of your nervous system, the way they're wired, right, is such that at the top you have, let's say, confirmation bias, things you see around in the environment. Just below that, you have actions and reactions. So those are now coming from within me. The other part I'm seeing in the environment, action and reactions come from within me. Below actions and reactions. So a lot of the time we tell ourselves, oh my God, I'm reacting to my partner's reacting to me. Below that, you actually have things like previous episodes of trauma, conditioning, etc., that have like, validated to you, okay, this is how I should act. But the magic layers right here underneath, which is a belief system. So whatever I believe, only in that direction can I truly act. Someone said character is what you do when no one's looking and after dark. Your character is entirely based on your belief system. So that means if I give you a choice to act in any which way, you would only act in the way that you truly believe. So now when you take relationships, and we come back to that same principle, you can tell yourself, you can draw in a fucking mirror, you can put a picture on the wall, you can just read the stuff to you every day that says, I love myself, but if you don't believe it, it is impossible for the human being, for the human existence to manifest it. It's impossible for you to act on it because you don't believe in it. You can try and fake it, you can try and push it, you can try and do any of it. I'm actually recording this right now on my YouTube thing as well, so it is going to the YouTube channel. But you can try and force it, right? And this is where the concept of shame tends to come in. So you can try and force the self-love, but if you don't believe that you deserve the love, if you don't believe that you can manifest the love, you don't believe you can attract the love, you won't be able to. This may sound really heavy, but what I'm giving you is actually amazing conversation. I'm giving you so much truth because I'm telling you, don't beat yourself up about something that is difficult for you to process. Instead, break it down and say, why the fuck is it difficult for me? That's why I like doing the work that I do, is because I'm not here to hold your hand, stand in front of the mirror every day and say, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, it'll come true, because it won't. It will not come true. You will do it and you'll resent it and you'll hate me. Instead, I'm the person who takes you in front of the mirror, and when you're like, I can't do it, my question is why? Why do you think you can't do it? Who's the first person who told you in your life that you don't deserve the level of love that you want? Who's the first person who in your life, when you just asked for a hug, could not fully show up there for you? Maybe they were too busy. Maybe they were stuck in their own coping mechanisms. Maybe they had their own traumas, their own baggage, their own invalidation from their life. And I'm talking about your caregivers. I'm talking about your previous partners. So that when it came to you, all they could do was project. All they could do was just bring out their stuff on you and not know how to shut it off. That's why, for example, when the anxious comes across an avoidant, they're like, oh my God, they're so emotionless. I don't know what's wrong with them. I mean, why are they being so cruel to me? But the truth is they just don't know how to create that level of emotional connection. So what they're projecting onto you is a reaction from their own trauma, which is to shut off. And converse, if the avoidant comes in touch with an anxious person and the anxious person is like in their face saying, love me, love me, love me, I really need you to love me and show me that you love me, they may think, oh my God, the anxious person is like too much, way too much. These people are like too loud, they're like too clingy. But the truth is all they're doing is projecting their own coping mechanism. All they're doing is just bringing out their method of needing to survive with their trauma. I actually put out a post about this today, about the abandonment that anxious attachments hurt from so strongly, which is why they latch onto something, right? It's kind of that fear that drives you, that says, and this is a key word with scarcity and abundance, it is that fear that tells you, if I don't hold on to something tight enough, it's going to leave. But that's not how abundance works. And this is like full fucking circle to come back. Abundance comes in with the concept of trust and the concept of belief. So we've gone layer by layer by layer by layer. Someone asked, what was the top layer? The top layer was everything you notice around you. So all of the stuff that you're seeing around you to prove yourself right, that's what's on the top layer. And then we go down, 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 down. Actions come in the middle, and then down, 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 and then is the belief. So now the question becomes, how do I change my belief? How do I change how I see myself? How do I change how I see my relationship? How do I change what I really know I deserve? And how do I bring that out? So the first way, the way I like to approach it, right? And there's various different ways. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's stuff so much, but Dr. Joe Dispenza, what I find is that in his method of neuroscience, it's an unconscious, like, focus only on the future and not enough on like what has brought me here to this point. So, and that's amazing. Like, I mean, his job is like his work is so phenomenal. But what I try to teach people is that it's difficult for you to act on your life tomorrow if you don't know what is holding you back today. So the first part is to actually discover our wounds then. Okay, what is making me scarce so that I can't be abundant? And that's where we come down to beliefs. That's where we come down to traumas. That's where we come down to past relationships. Now, if you were to be able to actually look at any of these things, if you were actually able to go back and dig deep and you're witnessing these and you're like, okay, I want to see what's holding me back. I want to see where the pain is coming from. I can guarantee you will find at least, and if you go that, this is if you're able to go past the layer of the ego, which prevents you from seeing things, right? You will go one step back and then two steps and then three, and you will see at least maybe 10, 15, 20, 100 moments of pain. You will see 100 moments of rejection. You will see moments of abandonment. You will see moments where someone has unconsciously invalidated you. Now, think about this, okay? Let's say you want to dance and you are now, let's say, 10 years old and you really want to dance, and I'm the dance teacher. Now, in this space, who do you really want to impress? You want to impress me, right? Because I'm the dance teacher. You're like, music teacher, fuck off. I want to impress the dance teacher. So you're coming to me to impress me, which now unconsciously makes me like a little god in your life, because what I choose to do, how I choose to validate you, will actually shape you as an individual and your dance, right? So now you practice every fucking day. You come at me, I'm like, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. You'll keep pushing, you'll keep pushing, you'll keep pushing. But your entire belief of how good or bad you are is based on not how good or bad you are. It's based on how good I tell you you are. You see? Now take this. Now you're much older. Now you're much more like affirmative in like what you do, your job, where you're from. But take when you were a child. And instead of the dance teacher and instead of you being a dancer, take you as just a child and me being the parent. And instead of dance, let's take love. Let's take love being that meaning of exchange. So you come to me and you really want to be loved. But I'm daddy or mommy and I'm just sitting there being like, no, I don't have the space for it. No, I can't do it. No, I've got so many mouths to feed. No, I don't have time for this. No, I have to go make money. Or I don't even have to say no. I just put on a face. I just shut it down. In fact, my trauma may make me a narcissist, which may project onto you. But at the end of the day, you as that little child who wants to impress me so much, all you're receiving is not good enough, not worth enough. You're not valuable enough to be loved. Because your source of that validation, love, and security and safety is who? From where? From me. So, to create abundance in your relationships, remember what I said, you have to discover where you first felt scarcity. And that's going to be in those either childhood relationships or in those past relationships, when you were denied what was a basic desire for yourself. So how you move past that is going back to that same version, going back to those 10, 20 versions of pain or moments of pain, those 10, 20, 30, 40 moments of rejection, and being able to give it to yourself, being able to recollect, connect with that little child in that moment, and be able to give them love, be able to soothe them, be able to like hold them, instead of the no's they got, giving them yeses, instead of the I'm not free, giving them I'm here for you, instead of the you're not good enough, holding them close and saying you're the fucking best thing ever. Now, you may think that this is like, dude, how the fuck am I going to do this with my mind? Here's an interesting fact about the mind, and you can like research this anywhere. The brain, if you're able to slow down your brainwave state, it can't actually identify between what is reality and what is visualized. That's why augmented reality, virtual reality, all of those things are becoming such a big thing, because when you put them on, your brain makes you think you're actually living them. So you're actually moving around with this fucking thing on your eyes, thinking you're part of a different world, because you're able to manipulate your brain into thinking that. Now, that's one side of things. There's a bad side to it also, which is how people ultimately, as like con men, liars, cheats, etc., that's how they get away with that same tactic, is because they're able to manipulate the brain into believing something and they're really good at it. But the same concept can be used really powerfully, which is if you do visualizations for yourself and you do them in a constructive, safe environment with a constructive, safe theme, especially around reparenting, especially around healing, especially around loving yourself, especially about supporting and growing yourself, then now what's happening is you're going back to that same brain while you're in like a deep meditative state and you're visualizing it. You're now convincing yourself that the same things that you were like not good at, that you deserve. The same way that people rejected you, instead now you're showing yourself love, compassion, you're visualizing actually receiving it. So your brain is starting to think that it's more true. As your brain starts to think it's more true, and if you do that repetitively, the repetition leads to a change in belief. So, from the same belief that I had around scarcity, the same belief around myself not being worthy, not having any of the nots is scarcity, right? Because you don't think it's capable, you don't think you can have. So, around any of the not having, not being worthy, not being lovable, etc., if I'm able to visualize, myself in a safe environment with myself as an adult, even with my parents in that moment, and instead seeing my parents as now slowly coming closer to me and saying, I'm sorry, my child. I just didn't have the ability to love you and show up for you. I'm sorry I didn't have, the capacity to give love because there's so much going on. But you are beautiful. But you are special. But you are powerful to me. I may never be able to show you how much, but you are so meaningful and special. And then if you start visualizing yourself doing it, now what's happening is you are actually believing this more and more and more. What's the difference between a guy who, the guy who had no legs and climbed up Mount Everest, and you and me? What's the difference between him and us, except for the fact that we have more legs than he does, but he climbed up Mount Everest? It's his ability to be able to tell his brain and his body that no matter what, I am capable. So you know what happens? Remember what I said? The brain wants to prove it true. How does the brain start proving it true? It starts working out so much more, starts doing endurance training, starts doing everything because he's telling himself, I'm capable of doing it. That's how phenomenally powerful the brain is that if we tell ourselves we actually deep down inside deserve something, it will find a way to prove it true. So now once you start healing these traumatic wounds of rejection and abandonment that we felt, we're now changing our belief from I don't have enough to I am having enough. From I am not worthy enough to I am worthy enough. From I don't think I can get this to I absolutely can get it because I deserve it. I just as I am. Carl Jung actually said this. He said, you are so fucking special just because you exist. And Carl Jung was a phenomenal psychiatrist and psychologist. He was Austrian way back in the day. He created the foundation of reparenting. And he said, you just by your existence are phenomenal. What actually breaks that down is your conditioning. Your conditioning, the shaming, the blaming, that's what takes away your value. But if you don't have those things, you just by nature are so valuable. So now we're trying to convince ourselves again that we are that valuable. We're trying to take away the conditioning and the trauma and the pain to be able to show us we are beautiful. As you start doing this, remember what I said? Your belief starts to change. So now the same belief is I am powerful, I'm valuable, I deserve it. I'm such a phenomenal partner, and I can be such a phenomenal partner. Move up a few steps. What comes next? Remember, I told you guys the next thing in the table is what? Action. So now if you believe you're a good partner, you will start showing up in the way a good partner shows up. And those things may be very different from the way you have before. Maybe commitment starts to become more of an honest, strong piece with you. Maybe loyalty starts to show up more. Maybe boundaries, healthy boundaries starts to show up more. Maybe good conversation around triggers starts to show up more, all because you believe you're a better partner. Then you believe, I deserve to have a good partner. And so what happens now is, remember, we're in the action state. So you're actually acting. So you will now meet someone, go on a date, and you'll realize this person is not treating me with respect. And instead of continuing with that bullshit and that pattern, instead now you draw a line and you're like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work out. I really appreciate your time, but that's about it. Why? Because your belief is so strong, you have no choice but to act in any other way. Now, as you go along that way and you act multiple times, you will get tested multiple times. But as you act in that way and say, I am worthy, I am powerful, I do deserve it, I do have deserve to have good partners and be a good partner. You start acting like that. You start procrastinating way fucking less. So for people who are talking about procrastinating and like not getting off their bums to actually do something, your belief system changes because you're like, I am worth my time. So you get up, be constructive about it. Now, as you act on this multiple times, you're going up. And remember, the surface layer that I said is confirmation bias around your universe. So now, not only have you acted on having a good partner and being the good partner, you started attracting it. You've attracted a series of good relationships. Yeah, they didn't work out for whatever reason. Maybe, like, you guys evolved. Maybe there were challenges, blah, 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 which is all good. But you believe in your ability to attract good relationships so much so that now you're up here where the only thing you can see and allow into your life is a good relationship. Because at this point, your level of belief is so strong. You've come from here, you've acted, you've done everything, you've come all the way up here. So now the only thing you can see in your life is a good relationship. So there is no room for something that can be so malicious or traumatic that can like pull you away, that can cause you pain. And even if you have huge challenges, instead of criticizing them, instead of like just immediately demeaning yourself, you start to validate yourself. You start to learn from them. You start to grow. You start to use them to be able to evolve. So your entire approach to life changes, and everything you have ends up being something that's so powerful to you. And ultimately, that's how you start to create abundance in your relationships. That's how when you're showing up to go home, you're super excited when you're in the car outside. Even if it's going to be a challenge, even if it's going to be something else, you're super excited. This energy is now fed off of by everyone at home. Your kids are like, daddy's home, mommy's home, blah, blah. Your partner is like, oh my God, I so want this. Your energy becomes playful. Your energy becomes attractive. You do the whole smack you on the butt thing, bite each other's cheeks, whatever the fuck you want. And that's like your definition of playfulness. The energy absolutely changes. If I were to sketch abundance versus scarcity, right? And I was to sketch it as two human beings. I was teaching this in my class in the Gauntlet. Actually, they're going through a resentment class with one of my other coaches right now. It's teaching them about the same thing, about resentment and how it makes us so victimized, right? So if I was to sketch and draw a depiction of two human beings, one who's very scarce and one who's feeling abundant, the one who's feeling scarce would be, as we just talked about, feeling so victimized that life is like closing in on them. So knees to the chest, lying in that fetal position, but lying afraid of like being hurt, afraid of like, life not working out, afraid of relationships not working, etc. And the other individual, if I were to draw them being abundant, I draw them with what? Being able to stand up on their own 2 feet, shoulders pulled back, chin up, neck aligned, chest out, feeling confident, feeling capable, feeling open to like to take on what life has to give them and being ready for it, enjoying the journey. At the end of the day, we have to really ask ourselves which one of the two we want to be. No one gives us an award for being a victim, and no one can successfully pull us down when we're empowered. So we have to decide, because at the end of the day, whatever we decide in here is what we manifest. Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.